I'm Creek Stewart. Welcome to the February 2015 APOCABOX Skills Challenge. This is a really cool challenge, guys. It's probably something that you've never heard of. This month, I'm going to teach you how to start a fire with a guitar pick. Believe it or not, guitar picks are incredibly flammable. A lot of people don't know that. They're made of a material called celluloid. Ping pong balls are also made out of celluloid. If you hit a guitar pick with a lighter or a match, it will burst into flame. But in a survival scenario, a lot of times you don't have a lighter or you don't have a match. Most people will only have a ferro rod, which should be a part of your everyday carry. So here's what you're going to need to complete this month's Survival Skills Challenge. The first thing you're going to need is your ferro rod. This ferro rod's pretty cool because it's got a glow-in-the-dark thumb grip. It's really perfect for when you're fishing through your pack late at night or in low light conditions. This glow-in-the-dark handle makes a big deal. So you're going to need that. And then you're going to need your bag of fire picks. These are simply guitar picks with an APOCABOX logo. They're made from a material called celluloid. You're also going to need some type of a stick that you can split in half. This is a willow, a dried piece of willow that I've split in half. This particular stick doesn't have to be dry, okay? It can be wet, it can be damp. This is not necessarily what we're going to use to start the fire. You're going to need some tinder from inside your APOCABOX for when you get the fire started. This is really what's going to help it take off. And then lastly, just for kicks, you're going to need your pocket bellows tool for blowing this fire up. You're not going to need this to start your fire, but once you get it going, this guy right here, you're going to concentrate the oxygen in your breath, and this guy right here is going to amp it up significantly. All right, this month you're actually going to get a bonus tutorial. I'm going to show you how I use a ferro rod. I'm always surprised at how many people aren't using a ferro rod properly. I mean, there's not necessarily one way to use one, but there are some things I'd like to go over just in case you're not super familiar with using ferro rods to begin with. First of all, you'll notice that your ferro rod has a black coating on the outside. In order to use it, you got to scrape this black coating off. Okay, you've got to get it to where it's down to what looks like bare metal. Now on your scraper, if you feel your scraper, you're going to feel one edge has a very sharp edge. That's the edge you're going to want to use to scrape your ferro rod, because you need something that really scrapes off metal. This isn't about getting little sparks. I can spark something all day long with these little sparks, and it's not going to mean anything. Okay? What you need is burning metal. Okay? You need to really dig into this ferro rod and scrape off little pieces of burning metal. You got to really man down on this ferro rod, because it's all about burning metal pieces, and you don't get that when you give it this number right here. Okay, a lot of times you really have to plant your ferro rod into something solid in order to really get a good solid scrape on it. I mean, look at those burning pieces of metal. You know, you can even see the leftover metal residue on this piece of willow. So before you start this project, you really want to practice with your ferro rod, okay? A ferro rod can last for thousands of strikes, so don't worry about getting in a few practice strikes, okay? So none of this and a lot of this. I'm a huge fan of good ferro rods. This rod that I've sent you this month is a good rod, okay? This is not one of those real cheapy rods that won't give you showers of sparks. This baby puts out some serious sparkage. All right, so the steps to creating a fire with a guitar pick and your ferro rod, they're actually pretty simple. This guitar pick will only light up with an open flame. I can spark this thing all day long with the best ferro strikes that I have, and it's not going to light on fire. I have to somehow get an open flame, and I want to use this guitar pick to do that. But first, I have to prepare my baseboard. I'm going to use one of my favorite knives of all time. It's my Buck 110 folder. I've had a love affair with this knife for literally going on 25 years. It's just an awesome, classic bushcraft and survival blade. If you don't have one, they make an incredible gift. All right, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to drill a little cavity in this hearthboard here. Just a depression, a little semicircle, something that I can collect shavings of this guitar pick. I'm going to end up scraping shavings off of this guitar pick, which I'm then going to ignite with my ferro rod. So I'm going to cut the camera off really quick here and get this depression carved, and then I'm going to come back. All right, so here's what my finished hearthboard looks like. All I've got is a semicircle, a divot right there, about a, I don't know, ½ inch from the edge of the hearthboard. Then you notice I've got a little notch right behind that. That notch is actually a spot for me to plant my ferro rod. Okay, so you notice I planting my ferro rod right in that notch. Okay, that's pretty important. That keeps everything from sliding around. Now that I have this divot carved, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a split in this board right down to that notch. Some muddy ground, so I'm going to split this right here. And all I'm going to do is just drive my knife right through the middle of this. I'm going to drive it down to the, right down to the notch. Perfect. Perfect. As you can see right here, see my split right there? Got a split right through the middle of that notch with this knife. All right. Now here is where the magic starts. Really carefully, you're gonna choke up on the blade of your knife. I like to pinch right at the tip of my knife. I'm going to put a corner of my pick right down in this notch, and I'm going to fill this divot, this cavity, with shavings. Just real thin shavings. This is going to take a couple of minutes, but I always say that if there's one thing in survival you can't rush, it's fire. This is where patience really pays off. So take a few minutes, shave down one of your picks, and literally fill this cavity with celluloid shavings. All right, everybody. Remember when I said that this pick needs open flame to catch on fire? Well, this is how we get that open flame. We fill that cavity with shavings off of this pick, okay? Now check this out. Remember that slit? I'm gonna stick this guitar pick all the way up here in the slit. I'm gonna put the edge of it lined up right into those shavings. Okay, I know it looks a little crazy, but this right here is where the magic of this really happens. Now, watch closely. I'm going to take my ferro rod. I'm going to take my tinder, get this down nice and close. I'm going to take my ferro rod and real carefully, look at that. Now there goes our pick. While our pick's burning, I'm not panicking. I'm gonna take our tinder. Boom, there's our tinder. All right, now that our tinder's on there, I'm gonna go ahead and put on some of our wood shavings. Now notice that this fire is really starting to struggle. I smothered it. I did that intentionally because I want to prove a point about oxygen. Watch what I do with my collapsible pocket bellows when I really amp this fire up with some oxygen. All of a sudden, with just a little bit of oxygen from this pocket bellows, I can get away from this fire. I can get far enough away from it and literally turn that damp wood into a rocket furnace of oxygen. There we go. That sucker ain't going out now. Man, that's amazing how that works. A fire needs 3 things to be successful. It needs an ignition source, it needs fuel, that's our guitar pick and our damp wood shavings here, and then it needs oxygen. And oxygen is such a critical component. Many people overlook the importance of that. Just the addition of oxygen makes starting a fire so much easier in these damp and wet conditions. I always keep guitar picks in my wallet. They're lightweight, they're inexpensive, they're really flammable, they're waterproof, and they're very unassuming. No one's gonna think that a guitar pick is your fire tender. I always carry a ferro rod on my person. It's a part of my everyday carry. And the two combined with a little bit of knowledge can absolutely save your life. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this month's APOCABOX Skills Challenge, and I can't wait until what I'm going to show you in April. Remember guys, it's not if, but when.